welcome to Sustainable Solutions with Planet Aid. I'm Monica Johnson, and I'm going to be your guide for this journey as we take challenging situations and try to simplify them. And it's also an opportunity for us to learn from incredible individuals and organizations at the forefront of developing and implementing sustainable solutions. Change is not only possible, but it is essential, and it begins with understanding. So today we are going to be talking to Snorre Westgaard, and Snorre is the CEO of Humana People to People India, as well as the chairman for Humana People to People. And he works very closely with Planet Aid. So we're going to be talking to him and we'll have plenty to talk about. Welcome to you, Snorre. How are you?
Thank you. I'm fine, thanks. And thanks for inviting me to this podcast.
Well, we saw you in the hallway and we were like, we got to get you, right?
Yeah,
How many opportunities do we get to have this?
that's true.
So, Snorre, you have been working in global development for over 2 decades, more or less 2 decades, I would say, right?
4 decades actually, but
Four
fine.
decades.
Yeah.
Okay. See, you started with Humana People to People in 2004. Is that what it was? Or,
I started working with Humana People to People India in 2004.
okay.
But before that, I worked with different organizations in West and Southern Africa for 24 years. So,
Okay.
yeah,
Wow. Okay. So that was your second act.
it was definitely.
Very good. So give us a little bit of information. See, I love to get that background information. Tell me a little bit about how you started and what inspired you to get started. Because your background says that you love working with communities and bringing communities together through education and health and engagement and working people to people. So just give us a little bit of background.
Sure. So, well, it started with I think in my student days, I really wanted to do something about the inequalities of the world. I always believed a lot in equal opportunities and justice for people across the world. So I wanted to do something, and I got an opportunity to travel to Guinea-Bissau as my first assignment, together with young volunteers from Norway at that time, to actually construct toilets and school furniture. There were very little schools, so we built benches under the trees that the kids could sit on. So that was the start of it. So and then. And from there, I worked in Guinea-Bissau. We also built a vocational school. We built a lot of primary schools, and it was all. When I say we, it was basically, the community themselves with a few resources that we managed to put together, and then we worked with the people from the villages, other communities to come together and then build these structures, and that was how it all started. But then, of course, sustainable development is more than building buildings. It's also about building institutions, doing programs. So as I moved on to Angola, to Zambia, I also we included other projects in international development, which was more about mobilizing communities to change, to address some of the problems they had around malnutrition of children, about access to water, clean drinking water, agriculture, and so on. So as I got more experiences, as the organizations I worked in understood more about the different challenges, the programs also developed and became more as a sustainable development programs.
And talk about humble beginnings. I mean, you really have gone up the rungs as far as doing latrines and up to where you are right now. So how does that experience affect how you look at the whole picture?
Yeah, I think it's important to always understand, the needs of the people that we want to work. It's you can say people to people. The whole meaning started as an understanding of solidarity, of kind of moving resources from the north to the south and mobilizing people in the north to actually provide not only financial resources but also give from themselves as volunteers to support people in Southern Africa who were fighting for a better life. And you can say that has changed over time. Not that, the first objective is not important. It's still important that people in the north support people who are struggling in developing world. But it's also about, you can say, the countries that we work in Africa and Asia and South and Central America. We also have to acknowledge that these countries, they have resources, they have people with great capacities, but also within these countries they have a lot of challenges and difficulties. And it's about, I feel more now that solidarity is not just from north to south. It's solidarity, globally across the world, that we should all, do something wherever we are to fight for greater equity, and so that all people have access to opportunities. So I think that that's the fundamental in whatever we do.
And I love that answer because to me it shows a respect and a level ground where people can talk to people and find out different information to help one another. I love the aspect of getting the information from the communities, but helping them to do what they need to do within their own communities because they know best. So you serve both as chairman of Humana People to People and CEO of Humana India, which sounds like you would never ever have a moment to yourself, quite frankly. Um, so tell us how you split your time with both of these entities.
So Humana People to People India is one of the members of the Federation Humana People to People. And you can say, for the past 20 years, my day job has been in India. That's where I work. That's where I, do my job every day. And then some years back, I was elected as first to the committee of Humana People to People. The Federation Humana People to People, which is a network of all the member associations, where Planet Aid and Humana People to People India is two of the members. The General Assembly consists of all the members,
Mm,
and then once a year they also elect the committee members, who have the job to oversee and give guidance to the management, the hired management of the federation. So, as a part of the committee and the chairman of that committee, we meet around 6 to 7 times a year, and then it's our job to look at all the issues that the federation work with, and provide oversight and guidance to management. So the chairman is not a it's not a job. It's a responsibility I have, in addition to being CEO of Humana People to People India.
got it. Got it. Not a job, but kind of a job, because of the responsibility, right?
Sure, it's responsibility is there, but anyway,
But
sure.
I gotcha. Okay, so Planet Aid, again, is a founding member of Humana People to People, and we also partner with Humana India. Can you explain the connection with both, and how does the sale of our clothing, the clothing donations, how does that affect the work that's done within the Federation?
Yeah, that's a really great and important question, because you can say, when we look at the members in the global south, then we implement development projects within health, education, community development, environment, and livelihoods. And the most of the funds are raised through what we call partnership and development, where we approach both government partners or donors and private donors, and these funds are restricted funds for specific projects.
Okay.
Projects can be anything between 1 year and up to 5 years, and they have specific objectives and the budgets that are agreed upon with the donors or the partners. And of course, these budgets, or you can say these projects, also contribute to to project support or overhead of the organization. But one of the strengths that we have, for example, as Humana People to People India, is that we have the possibility to build a sustainable, strong organization, because we also have unrestricted funds from organizations like Planet Aid. And though when we make applications to you, it's a, we apply for money for teacher training, for Kadam, for the different programs we have. Your funding is more flexible, so that during the year we can always adjust that we spend the money for gaps in our budget, or it can be, sometimes co-funding is needed, because the donors, very often, the project-based grants, they do not pay 100% of the grant. They may pay maybe 90% or 80%, and then we need co-funding.
Okay.
So in that way, the funding we get from Planet Aid and other members in Europe is very, very important for doing what we do. It also means that we can spend more money on capacity building of our staff. We can, between project, we can to some degree retain talent. I mean, not forever, but for example, if there's a gap of 2-3 months until next project, we can retain that gap, give them research tasks, preparation tasks for the next project, and that means that we also retain talent.
Right.
We don't have to lay off people immediately when a project is over, and then start to resource new people for the next project.
Hmm.
Sometimes you do that also, but we have a possibility of retaining our talent.
And
So,
that's
so it
important. Yeah.
really gives us strength. It
Right.
really means that we have strong local organizations that can take up the challenge and apply for some of these bigger grants, international calls, and so on.
So you currently work out of India, but you are here in the United States because you attended the UN General Assembly last week with the side events, and you also went with our executive director of global partnerships, Marie Lichtenberg. You participated in the Africa Union side event. Is that correct?
Yes.
Um, it was basically about education and development and positioning skills development as a priority for Africa. So could you give us some of the highlights about what was said during your address?
Sure. We actually, I had prepared notes for the meeting on the background of the papers that was produced by the organizers,
Hmm.
and the background was, that they expect in the next decade or so, the youth population in Africa to grow to 830 million,
Wow.
and up to 2050 it will surpass the youth population in Asia. So it will be the biggest youth population in the world, concentrated in Africa. And this is a potential, it's a great potential for Africa to use the forces of all these young people to drive the economy and development forward. But of course, there are challenges, because new industries that want to invest, they do not always find the matching competencies that they need for their jobs. And uh, and this panel, or this event, was meant to kind of to position the importance of vocational training in this. I had prepared some points to say that it was not only about skills for specific jobs, but it was also important that we looked at it broader, that we looked at the young people as drivers of development in Africa, as leaders in their communities, and that we should see vocational training as an opportunity to also give young people more broader skills, management skills, problem solving skills, and entrepreneurial skills, so they also could create their own jobs. But most of those points were actually covered by the introduction. There were several, there was the commissioner and the deputy director for education in UNESCO had the first introductory speeches, so they covered some of this. and then there were other speakers before. So when it came to my turn, I felt that the points were had more or less
They
been
were
covered
well covered.
already. And then when the moderator, who was the ambassador for Kenya, he should give me the word, then he said that I've looked at your website and I can see that you started out as a solidarity movement in the fight against apartheid. So what does solidarity mean now? so so so
Wow.
then I got an opportunity to kind of leave my notes aside and say something about the importance of vocational training, to train young people to be in solidarity with their communities and take leadership positions and drive development in their communities. And I could also say something about the importance of agriculture, because vocational training is also about training young people to adapt to climate change and also modernize agriculture in the sense that you know use the knowledge that is existing, but then kind of use that knowledge more focused, so that young people can also use it as entrepreneurship to take agriculture production also to more processing and so on. So some of those areas were covered.
I love that you talked about, because after apartheid, there is a time period where there's just where you have to get yourself together and in development. So, nothing happens in a day. So there is more of a focus afterwards, I would imagine, that you're trying to drive in one direction or another. So you're saying that after the apartheid, there was an opportunity to go toward vocational training, which would be a hands on way of them being able to galvanize the community into a certain direction that would be helpful to the country. I hope that that made sense.
Yeah, it does. It was, you can say, it was one of the first projects, most sustainable projects, from starting by very much going into communities and helping or working with communities to build schools and clinics. Vocational training was one of the first projects where we actually built sustainable institutions. And then a decade later, we started teacher training also. But then you can say another thing that developed or accelerated after the end of apartheid, and when we focus more on you can say sustainable development in the various countries where there are Humana organizations, is also programs like Child Aid, where we looked at the whole ecosystem of what affects children and how we could support communities to make better lives for the children, both in health, nutrition, and education. And for example, late in towards the end of the 1990s, the start of the HIV/AIDS programs, which has really had huge significance in the countries where we are working, or where we developed our TCE program, which addressed HIV/AIDS, and where we have been totally united with the international communities in evolving the program and the way we address the HIV epidemic. So yeah, so these are some of the examples of how the programs and our work has evolved, but always with people at the center.
Very good. And I know we're running low on time, so I'm going to keep it very short. Last thing, what do you envision as the tangible but far-reaching goal for the Federation within the next decade?
Our goal is to do what we do now, but better, and also to join some of the global movements. For example, the end of AIDS is within reach. So we would like to give our full support to the international community, I mean, to people in the field, but in collaboration with the international communities to actually achieve these goals. Another goal is to stop TB, which is also achievable. So I think one goal is that we together with the people we work with and the governments in the countries where we work and the international communities, to address some of these, you can say, yeah, it's sustainable development goals, or you can say tangible, goals that we can actually move. We also want to see children learn, because that's a huge challenge. That over half of the kids, they simply don't learn in school, and we have to do something to improve education in primary schools across the countries we work. And we are working a lot on that, both training teachers but also working directly with school teachers and
And with
with the
parents,
children.
we should say as well, because you actually go into the community and talk about the importance of children being educated with the parents.
Yes, exactly.
So very important. I want to just give one moment over to Haley, because I know he has some questions as well. This program is brought to you by Planet Aid and all of its bin hosts in our participating regions. Find a bin or donation center. Visit planetaid.org, then click the Find a Bin tab.
Thanks for the time. Thanks for the info. It's been really insightful for me. We're so focused on collecting clothes on this side that sometimes we lose sight of the impact that it has. I'm just wondering to just give a real tangible example of some progress made with HPP India. Is there a specific example we could highlight of a program and its positive impact? I feel like we focus on a lot of scary challenges, so it's also nice to focus on some of these success stories as well.
Yeah, I think one of the success stories is the teacher training, which has been supported by Planet Aid. And in India, we found a different model than our sister organizations in Africa, and that we have gone in and actually provided support to government institutions called Districts Institute of Education and Training. And then we have implemented new program elements directly with the teacher students, and but also worked with the whole teacher council to kind of build capacity in the institution to improve their teacher training. But this has meant that we have been able to train around, directly influence the training of around 18,000 teachers, who have come out as better teachers with more understanding and the practical knowledge of how to address the specific learning needs of kids in rural and also semi-urban areas in government primary schools. And then we have also built on these experiences. So now we are also developing another program. We are working with 12 of these institutions, where we work more indirectly to build the capacity in the teacher councils and the faculty and of these institutions to build capacity. So I think this is one example of a very successful program, and it has impacted hundreds of thousands of kids.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you think about the trickle down from teachers to kids, you really have a more dramatic impact. Um,
Yes.
well, just one more question, because we're sustainable solutions. Can you talk about the importance of, when you're designing and implementing these programs, of making them sustainable, so they're not just around for a year or two and gone, so they can have a lasting impact?
Yes, I think that's one of the bigger challenges that every organization working in this area has. You can say one of I always see sustainability on at least two levels. One is, you build your programs impact the people to such a degree that whatever you teach or whatever you do makes a sustainable impact on the communities. That means they will continue to use what they have learned. They will continue to implement what they have learned for many, many years. So a sustainable impact on the communities, that is one. Then the other, where we often do, I can mention one example from India, where we have just had a program with tuberculosis. And this program was implemented with the national TB division and the state, in four states, the state TB offices and the district TB offices. So, and they are responsible for identifying and delivering TB treatment to people suffering from TB. but they miss the homeless because they are a group that is very difficult to reach. So our contribution was to identify, I mean, to reach out to the homeless population, screen and identify those that actually were suffering from TB, and then bring them to the government institutions. So in that way, the whole program was building on sustainable institutions. But then again, how do you then bring that experience and knowledge of how to reach the very hard to reach people to these institutions? And then the government or the central TB division have invited us to a number of regional workshops to bring these experiences forward to all, I mean, to all the states in India. What are the actually difference that we did compared to what was did before, which enabled us to reach many more or find many more people with TB among the homeless population and bring them and also ensure that the people continue their treatment. So that's one example, but it's not, you don't have a, it's not a, what do you call it's not a one.
Size fits all.
Yeah, you can't solve it with a silver bullet or something. It's something you have to work with, discuss, find out, try. I mean, it's a part of every project to discuss how do we ensure that all the experiences and learning that we generate are actually used and in a sustainable manner.
Very great. And the other thing that just I'm impressed with is just the number of connections. Just a hub and a wheel, and just between Planet 8 and HPP and all the fingers that go out. It's just really amazing how everyone making these small steps can have such a huge impact. So it's great to hear from your side of things.
Thanks. Yeah, I think you put it very nicely. It's how it is. That's also why we see ourselves, as a network. We understand. I mean, my day job is in Humana People to People India, and of course, that's what I can tell a lot about and so on. But we all of us understand us very much as part of this network of organizations across the globe, and we know how important it is. The people in the US who put containers, put clothes in the containers, that actually has a huge impact on children and homeless people and all kinds of people around the world. So yeah, it's great.
Awesome.
It's great to hear that affirmation for our donors, especially because sometimes you just think you're putting something in the bin and that's it. We're helping with recycling, but there's a greater picture. So thank you
Yes,
for bringing
sure.
that clarity to it. So I want to just say thank you for joining us today, and we really appreciate your time. And we want to thank our listeners and our viewers for joining us for this episode of Sustainable Solutions with Planet Aid. And we hope you have been inspired by the ideas that we've explored today. And we encourage you to search for sustainable solutions that you can pursue so that you can be a good steward in your neck of the woods and beyond.